Hi and welcome to this week's Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons teaching. It's great to be back with you all. This week we are talking all about how to manifest what you want, how you can become the creator and shaper of your world. We'll be sharing our top tips to help you on your manifesting journey, as well as the most important things that you need to avoid that will block your manifestation. Okay, David, so top manifestation tips. Let's begin with the first step in the process, if you like. Clarity of intentions.
Well, this is what Taoists call Yi, Y-I. And for those of you who listen to my meditations, you'll always hear me at the end saying Yi Dao, Qi Dao. So this means Yi, your intention, Dao, the flow of your intention, Qi Dao, your Qi flows with that intention. So getting your intention clear, your Yi, is so important. Not to have a fuzzy outcome. Well, this could happen and that may happen and it depends on other people. And this is particularly important for those of you who are looking externally for validation, approval, because then your Yi becomes confused. It doesn't become your Yi. It becomes other people, what they think about you. And this is what clouds and fuzzies your intention. And this is what blocks the manifestation, because the Qi gets blocked.
Okay, David, that's really interesting, because I know when we've talked about intention setting before, we've always talked about, don't be sitting on the fence with things. Don't be, well, I'd like a bit of this, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe I'd like a bit of that. So I've understood that kind of lack of clarity. But you've raised an important point there, that if our intentions are really about wanting to prove ourselves, wanting to be good enough, wanting to be lovable, and therefore we're looking at other people to give us the feedback, what you're saying is that also waters down and messes up our clarity of intentions.
Well, yes, because it ends up to be not your intention.
Yeah.
It ends up to be a kind of a mishmash of what other people want and the faceless jury. Mm. And this is particularly important, and for a lot of my clients, it's what they call the society norms. Mm-hmm. I call it the faceless jury. What society would like, what's right with society, matching up with society, being perfect, being the best that you can be, that's judged by society. So right away, if you think about this concept, it ceases to become your intention. It becomes what? It becomes something you can't grasp onto, because society is constantly changing, and what they think is right or wrong, you are not following your path at the end of the day. In fact, you're not following any path at all. You're kind of stuck in what I call the maze of confusion. You're totally confused, and this then reflects on your life journey, and Yi Dao, Qi Dao, it reflects on your life force, Qi energy. And this is what then creates mental confusion and also physical confusion, that you're always tired, you're listless, you're not eating right, you're not looking after yourself correctly. So this kind of spans out and affects all parts of your life.
So are you saying, David, that if our intentions, if what we're aiming for in life are based on what we believe our society's expectations of where we should be at in terms of our status, our wealth, our personal setup, or our health, or whether it's, like you say, whether we're just aspiring to like a tick box of, I need to get this far in my career, I need to get this far in my financial status, I need to get this far in my material trappings, that we can be very clear on those intentions, but in a way they are not authentic to us. They're not truly aligned with our authenticity. And so therefore they're weaker. Those intentions are not as energized, as you say. They're not as strong and powerful, and they're not quite sending out the same energy to the universe.
Well, I think I'd go even one step further than that, Alex. If you're using society as your intention, that's like shifting sand. So 1 month, 1 year, society, the media could be saying one thing. The year later, it could be saying something else. So you are not following your intention. You're being led by other people's intention. And it's the same way as if you put your validation on other people. Say, for instance, your main goal, your intention is to please people. Well, who are you pleasing? What are you pleasing? How does it please it? So you're kind of chasing your tail, and you lose your life focus. You lose your life's path, and you get stuck in the maze of confusion. And for many of my clients, this is where they are. They're in the maze of confusion. And over time, they lose sight of their path. They lose sight of what they should be doing. They lose sight of what their skill set is and what they're good at, because they're so good at trying to second guess what other people want.
So would you say that in terms of intention setting, it's almost like a two-step process? We need to first check in with ourselves to make sure what we are working towards is truly something that aligns with our authentic self, rather than just what our parents want of us or just what our society expects of us. So that's the first check. And then the second check is this making sure we have clarity with that intention. So it's not, it could be this, but it could be that. Oh, I'm not 100% sure if I want this, and to almost like sharpen up on a direction of travel, even though that's not going to be fixed in stone. There is flex in that. We can review it later on, and I think that's something we'll talk about later in this teaching.
That first point you raised, Alex, is very important, because to get your intention correct, your yi, it's got to be your intention. So you've got to make sure it's authentic and aligned with what I would call your shen, your truth and your honesty. And this is where a lot of my clients have great trouble, because they've spent so much of their time trying to align themselves with other people, what their parents want, what their friends want, what society wants. They've lost track of what they want. And that's why it's really important. And I would recommend you trying the Shen test, what I call the Shen test. Would you really say to your physical child, look, sweetheart, you must look at society and try and match with what society wants. You must look at your friends and try and match what they want. You must look what other people want and try and... You wouldn't say that to them, but you do say to yourself, and that part of you that we call the inner child. And this is creating the confusion. Because then, to your second point, you can't sharpen up because you're confused. What is your goal? And again, when I ask my clients this, what is your intention for life? What direction do you want to be accountable and responsible for? They'll look at me and they go, I don't know. And so how can you sharpen up something you don't know? So this falls down to the Wu Wei teaching about being accountable and being self-responsible. It is your responsibility to be clear on your intention, on your path. And that's why I like the word intention, because it allows you some flexibility. And I think we've done a video on the difference between goal setting, being rigid, and having an intention, a direction of travel. An intention is like following the compass. It allows you that bit of flexibility, the Wu Wei, to move, but you don't lose sight of your intention. So the first step on this is taking time, meditating on what is your intention. How do you align with your truth, with your honesty, with your integrity? How do you reach your potential and your flow? And that really is what this teaching is all about.
And I will put a link in the show notes to that teaching from our archives on the difference between intention setting and goal setting, because that's going to be really valuable as part of this, I guess, this first stage of clarity of intentions. And I think, David, what you've just said there kind of strikes me as, if we acknowledge that we are 100% accountable for our intention settings, for our life direction, that is an empowering thing, but it comes with a weight of responsibility, and that we can't blame other people and we can't look to other people to tell us, because I guess so many of us have almost been on this, it's almost like a conveyor belt of like, this is going to be our life direction, the conveyor belt that's created by our society's norms, our family's expectations, and so many people travel through their whole life, or good adult chunks of their life, on that conveyor belt, and they don't acknowledge that, hold on a minute, I have this is up to me. I have a role to play here. I'm empowered with choice. It doesn't have to be that my intentions, my direction of travel for life is dictated by society or my family.
That's right, Alex. And so many of my clients, when we do this work, they start to realize that their beliefs, their intention has never been theirs. They've been following something that they've never sat down like we're doing here and thought about it. And as you said, the idea of being accountable, of taking self-responsibility, sounds very empowering, but actually, for a lot of my clients, it's very out of the comfort zone because they've never actually done it. They've been so busy trying to meet other people's expectations, trying to please other people, trying to get their approval and their validation, where the concept of that to me is alien. Because if you already have innate value and worth, no one can give you value and worth, and no one can take your value and worth away from you. So this is really the work when I'm working with a client on Wu Wei, is to change those really core belief structures. And this intention, this Yi Dao, Qi Dao, is a very powerful teaching. I know when I received it in China, I never even thought about, well, perhaps my life is my responsibility, and really that's what's brought me here. Not following what society thinks I should, the size of the car, the size of the house, how I should be living, what I should be doing for my career. What is it that I really want to do? And in some way, it's very empowering. But for a lot of people,
yeah,
it's very difficult because they're so used to using excuses and not taking responsibility. And I think spiritually, taking self-responsibility and being accountable is one of the most profound spiritual teachings that I can share with you.
Well, I think the second point then, let's assume we've got to the position where we have clarity of authentic intentions. The second thing then that we must do, and this really applies to everyone, is to banish that internal self-doubt, that doubt that our intentions will come to fruition, that doubt in the universe, that doubt in ourselves to be able to proceed, progress, and achieve, because then we are diluting, polluting the energy of those beautifully clear intentions that we've spent so much time creating.
That's very well explained, because doubt is like a cancer that just eats away at your intention. And then what we do, we compromise and we give away. We give away our worth and our value. We put other things and other people in front of us. Instead of following what we want and being clear on what we want, we go down a compromise route, and we try and please other people. But what we're actually doing, as you quite rightly said, is diluting our intention. And then over time, we lose sight of the intention. As I said earlier, we drift into the maze of confusion. We're just going round and around and servicing other people without servicing ourselves. And again, when I work with my clients on this point, they'll bring forward things like, well, it's selfish. I shouldn't look after myself. I shouldn't put myself first. My family's needs, other people's needs are more important than mine. And on the theory, this sounds quite good, but all the time you're chipping away at your own life journey. You're putting other people's life journey in front of you, and you see yourself as an enabler for them to reach their intention. But how about you? And one of the most powerful things I can say to you, if this applies to you, your life is equally as important as other people. Not more important, not less important, but equally as important. And for a lot of mothers out there particularly, I'm saying your life is equally as important as your child's life. Their life is not more important than yours. And I know for a lot of you, those words are going to really hit hard. But when you lose track of your journey, remember, your child is looking at you for inspiration, for guidance, for someone that they can aspire to. And if you've lost track of your path, they're going to lose track of their path. So it's very important, this idea that you do not sacrifice, and as Alex says, chip away or dilute or doubt yourself. Doubt is one of the most important things that will affect your intention and affect your chi energy.
And I think next week our teaching is going to be all about how to banish negative self-talk. So that will very much help you with this particular topic. But we've also got several other video teachings in the archive that we'll put a link to as well in the show notes to really help you explore this issue of self-doubt. I think, David, on the trusting issue, again, we need to be careful that we don't allow our ego or our fearful inner child to set really high expectations of quick results, of wanting big results on their unrealistic timelines. And this idea of being patient, of maintaining intention even when it may outwardly appear that no progress is being made, I think is really important. And I know there's a beautiful thing that you often say, this concept of when a stream flows underground does not mean that it's not flowing. Just because we don't necessarily see progress or see results doesn't mean that there isn't positive forward movement in our intentions and what we want to achieve.
That's right. And the reason for this is because the person is looking for the external validation that they are making progress. And this is why it goes back to what we said earlier. And you see how all these things start to tie together now. Taking accountability and being responsible. If you're making progress in your intention and clarifying and clearing the doubt and being much clearer on your intention, it really doesn't matter what other people see or do. And this goes back down to accountability. The Taoist teaching on this is small, constant steps. We are not looking for one massive, big change that's going to change your life. We're looking to build from solid foundations of truth, honesty, and integrity. We're wanting to go back to really that spirituality of who you are And I often say in these teachings, I think this is what makes the Wu Wei model slightly different. At the base of it is this idea that we are spiritual. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about anything external. I'm talking about you have an energy, a spirituality. And that spirituality is your worth and your value. This is something that's innate, inherent with you. And so you have to really connect to that. And sometimes you have to take 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps back to get to that foundation before you can start to move forward. And that's why that teaching, sometimes the stream runs underground. You can't see it running, but it's still running. And that's very important. You're doing this work for you because you are equally as important as other people. Again, not more important, not less important, equally as important. So when you step back, find your foundation, and then start to make steady, easy, consistent steps. And I would strongly recommend meditation to do this, spend 10, 15 minutes a day meditating on these points. Because what that shows yourself is a value that you're prepared to give 10, 15 minutes of your day for this work. And if you are listening to this and say, well, I haven't got time for that, always remember, you have time to create worry. You have time to create anxiety. You have time to fret. You have time to worry about what other people are thinking and what society is thinking. All I'm asking is, why don't you divert that time into you and put some work into you and your intention? Your life is valuable. There is no one in the universe like you. You are unique. And this is where you can honor and respect yourself by doing this 10, 15 minutes of work constantly, every day. Don't put it off. Oh, it's busy today. Do it every day.
And I think this idea of doing the work in terms of intention setting, clarity of intentions, and then taking action brings us on to our next point, which is, I guess, really links into the concept of Wu Wei, of effortless effort, of understanding that in order to manifest our intentions, that we should put an appropriate amount of effort in to realize, to bring those intentions to fruition, that we can't just sit back and expect, the universe to serve us everything up on a plate without putting in effort. But equally, we shouldn't force, we shouldn't push too hard. It's about finding that sweet spot in order to manifest appropriately.
And that's exactly right. And that's for many people who misunderstand what Wu Wei is, and it normally gets translated into effortless effort or the act of not doing. They misunderstand, as you quite rightly said. They say, well, I can just lie in bed all day then and everything gets sorted out. And the term is effort, effortless effort. It means, as Alex just explained, have you ever had a time in your life when you thought something was going to be very difficult or challenging to you, but it's almost like you hit that sweet spot and it just flows, and the next words come out of your mouth effortlessly, and you do something and it becomes very easy. It's quite a big challenge that you've done, but when you look back, you say, that wasn't hard at all. And that effortless effort, that Wu Wei, is being in your flow, that flow state. And why we do these teachings is to try and encourage you to live in that flow state. How do I do that, David? You do it by listening to this video. You cut out doubt. You stop trying to look outside of yourself for validation and approval. You take self-responsibility. All the things we've just been talking about. Now you go, oh, well, that's difficult because I'm not used to it. It's unfamiliar. And that's why we go back to the last teaching, small, constant steps. Do this. Don't announce to everybody in your family, things are going to change. And right now, I'm going to change. Just come back, find your grounding, and you might be unpleasantly surprised just how much you have got lost in the maze of confusion. But just accept that for yourself and say, right, this is my starting point. For the next few weeks, few months, every day, I'm just going to start to build and to be authentic, to be true to myself, to take a responsibility for myself, to not to tell lies about I'm not good enough. Oh my goodness, how many times do I hear that in my clients? Stop it. I'm not good enough. I can't cope. I'm unlovable. These are the things that keep you held back and you lose your intention.
I think, David, I'm kind of smiling to myself. It's like, in terms of where, in my experience, in terms of where I focus my effort, in terms of the action I take, once I have clarity of intention. So say it's something to do with a career move. I would say almost more than 50% of the effort that needs to be put into manifesting is about keeping my negative self-talk in check, my doubts that this will happen, my doubts that I can do this, my doubts that things aren't going to go wrong, worst case scenarios. And then say the other 40% is about taking practical steps for action. So that could be doing research on companies that I would like to work for, sharpening up my CV, setting up with meetings with kind of people I know who may have opportunities. But the effort in terms of keeping my intentions doubt-free is a major part of this daily work, because for me it's like, if I can keep my purity of intentions, my mind like free and open, then what that does is it allows me to be open to all the possible opportunities that are already out there in the universe, in existence, in my orbit, that if I was clouded with self-doubt, if I was overly focused and hard and rigid and determined, so kind of the yin and yang of that, to the other side of that Wu Wei openness state, I wouldn't see those opportunities. And a lot of people think, oh, law of attraction, manifesting is like you do all these techniques and then the universe serves you the opportunities up on a plate. I believe the opportunities are always there, but it's our thinking that closes us off if we're not careful. So we don't perceive, we're not ready to engage with those opportunities.
That's right, because what you're talking about here is a very important Taoist concept, that the universe, the place we live in, is full of opportunities. And as you say, when you doubt yourself, when you're dishonest, when you're looking outside of yourself, all the things we've talked about at the beginning of this teaching, what you're doing is you're narrowing your perception of life. It becomes narrower and narrower until it's almost like you're looking through life through a pinhole. And so all the opportunities that are out there, you can't see because you're focusing on something like protecting yourself, keeping yourself safe, making sure that other people don't embarrass you, not being caught out. And so you're looking at life through a very negative lens. And when you do the stuff that we've been talking about, and you open yourself up and you become more authentic and you trust yourself and you trust your Shen, what you begin to do is to widen your perception. And this opens up, the translation from the Taoism is called the helpers, that suddenly synchronicity starts to take place. And when you open yourself up, and you'll never experience this until you open yourself up and do those small steps, things start to appear, opportunities, people come into your life, new courses of actions, because all you're doing is widening your lens that you're looking at life, and you can see the whole of life and the whole of the possibilities and the opportunities that are being offered to you by what the Taoists call the helpers. We would call it synchronicity. And I know every one of you watching and listening to this work have had these moments when out of the blue, something has happened. Now, a lot of you would discount that and say, oh no, that's not right because the world's against me, poor me, it never works out right for me. But what you're doing is you're missing these opportunities that will develop when you relinquish that idea of doubting. I mean, just me saying that word is very hard for me. The concept of you doubting yourself, it seems foreign to me. That what is it you're doubting? What part of you is doubting what part of you? It seems like nonsense to me. But when you do that, then you're restricting yourself to a very thin path, a path that just leads into the maze, going round and around, looking for someone else like a magic fairy to float in and wave their wand, and all of a sudden everything works out. This isn't reaching your potential. This isn't the law of attraction. This is not following your course or reaching your potential. We have to relinquish that doubt. We have to connect back to our Shen, our spirituality. We have to be truthful. We have to be honest. And we have to put time into ourselves and be responsible for ourselves.
And David, in terms of the final point or principle that I want to touch on in this manifestation set of guiding principles is and it really connects back to Wu Wei again, is about allowing the flow of our intentions. So that, I guess, one of the main differences between intentions and goals tend to be very rigid, fixed, linear. There's no wriggle room. There's no allowances for new opportunities, new directions, new choices coming up. Whereas intentions are really to be seen as fluid things, but not fluid in the sense of, oh, I've got a get out of jail card if I want to start introducing some self-doubt into this process. It's more about appreciating that life is not linear and in a straight line, and that it's almost like manifesting is like a series of stepping stones, but we don't necessarily know where the next stepping stone is going to be, and that we may open ourselves up to an authentic opportunity which takes our life direction in a slightly different way, which doesn't necessarily meet with an intention that we set like 18 months ago, but that we should be open to the idea of constantly flowing and being able to update our intentions and our life direction as we move through life.
Well, it's strange us talking about this, because just yesterday I was talking to a client about this who we worked together, and he realized he saw life as like a 45-degree angle, and he has to stay on that linear line and he can't move from that linear line, when really our life couldn't be something that's more opposite to that. And so the Taoists call it, and I know you've heard me use this metaphor many times, but it's a very powerful metaphor, like a river. And we're on a canoe on a river. And this river, like all rivers, has got beautiful, serene places where we're just gliding along. but it's also got rapids. It's also got waterfalls. It's also got big rocks and boulders. It may even have a couple of crocodiles. And what we have to do on this river, we're on the direction, we're following our intention, but we've got to have that flexibility to be able to move and to deal with the circumstances that we're faced with. So that if we're in the part of the river that's beautiful and we're just floating along and we can look at the scenery and it's a beautiful day, we act in a certain way. But we could be on the part of the river that's the rapids and rocks, and we have to guide our canoe a lot more with diligence and with care. And that really shows that line where it's always the same is the farthest from the truth about how our lives actually are. We should have an intention, a direction of travel, but then we should relax, drop our shoulders, and enjoy the life and enjoy the variety and enjoy the challenges, because in those challenges, as I've said earlier, are the opportunities. New opportunities will come your way. They will not come your way when you're looking at life through this very narrow lens. When you open up, these are where the opportunities lie. And there's a wonderful Taoist proverb I've translated into English. Adversity does not test you. Adversity reveals you. And so in that adverse times, in those difficult, challenging times, this reveals who you really are. And this goes right back to the beginning of this teaching. You are a spiritual being. You are immense. You are awesome. I have no fear in saying this because I'm awesome and Alex is awesome and you're awesome. Embrace your awesomeness. Embrace who you are. You have been blessed with this life. The thought of doubting yourself, to me, is so alien. I don't even understand why you would even spend a moment of energy in igniting that idea of I'm not good enough, I can't cope, I'm unlovable. It seems so alien to me. They don't even make sense. And why would you waste your energy on doing that when you can navigate down this beautiful river of life and gain everything that this life is going to offer you and reaching your true and honest potential?
Thank you, David. Well, we've covered a lot of ground there, and this is one of my absolute favourite topics to talk about. I really hope you've enjoyed this teaching. Please do let us know and perhaps share it with someone else who you think may also benefit from it. I will put links in the show notes to those teachings we've already mentioned, as well as our manifestation and law of attraction playlist. So many more teachings to help you understand and approach this subject. David works every week one-to-one with clients all over the world via Zoom video call. And if you're interested in learning more about David's consultations, I will also put a link to those in the show notes as well. And finally, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We produce new long-form teachings every Saturday, as well as 2 midweek short snippets of wisdom as well. So do join us by subscribing. We look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye-bye.